The director of the CIA says a cyber attack against the U.S. power grid by a terror group is a very real national security threat, one that could cripple government systems and disrupt an already fragile economy. Joining us now to talk about it, the chairman of the House Intelligence Committee, Congressman Mike Rogers of Michigan, and Paul Molitor, an assistant vice president at the National Electrical Manufacturers Association. Thank you, gentlemen, both for coming in.
Thanks for having us.
Congressman, let me start with you. We mentioned that CIA Director Leon Panetta mentioned this week this is really the battleground of the future. He's very worried about the possibilities of a cyber attack on our power system. How real do you think that threat is? How worried are you?
Oh, it's a very real threat, and it's not just our power system, it's other commercial enterprises as well. And think about where cyber attacks have come from. It was the guy in his mother's basement trying to crack into the school computer to change his grades, and we all thought, isn't that kind of cute, if you will. From that to whole nation states dedicating billions of dollars to hack our systems, to disrupt our systems, to steal information by cyber technology. The threat is real, and it's only getting worse.
And Paul, let's talk a little bit about the smart grid, because it used to be that all of our electrical components were really physical plants that you could go and check on them. You could have guards, you could have all kinds of things. Right. But so much of that system now is becoming digitized. How much more vulnerable does it make it then to an attack?
Well, the more we add communications technology, which is necessary to support the smart grid and the coming technologies like renewables in the home and electric vehicles, the more we add those communications, the more vulnerable it becomes. So we have to be very vigilant as industry rolls these out that we include the appropriate security measures.
Well, I thought it was a little bit startling this week that Jim Woolsey, the former head of the CIA, made some accusations this week that a lot of people who are working on the smart grid, he said 90 to 95% of them aren't taking this security threat seriously. Do you think that's an accurate characterization of those who are working on the smart grid?
No, I would disagree. If you take a look, we have a smart grid interoperability panel. And one of our major functions there is cybersecurity. We have several hundred people actually that are working on it. And the other thing also is that we're working with the IT companies who through the internet now have a very large experience in terms of securing the network system. So we're incorporating as it's built in. I don't think as the director said that it's a last thought. I think it's very much part of the architecture and the design.
Congressman, how difficult is it to balance the issues we have here with the government being able to have some control over saying how things are protected, how the internet operates, with the security and the privacy of individuals who may be worried about the government seeping into control of the digital world?
Well, I'm very concerned about the government controlling the internet, and that's exactly what we're not talking about. We do need a unity of effort between the private sector and the government to understand what the threats are. Nobody does that better than our national security agencies. They are phenomenal. They're some of the most brilliant people in the country working to solve these problems. The problem is we're based on an old Cold War attitude, and we have e-commerce is grown exponentially. Our ability to share information between what we know at the National Security Agency and how to protect e-commerce is growing. And so what we need to do is come up with a common platform, unity of effort between government and private sector. I would do it at one of our national labs so that when they do get the smart grid played out, we know the latest and greatest way to protect that smart grid and have cooperation in that protection from the National Security Agency or other agencies as it might apply.
And Paul, what is the timeline for a final smart grid? I mean, that would essentially cover the entire U.S.
Well, we're talking about really more or less a 20-year effort. It's going to take a lot to get out there. There are a lot of assets in place today that have a shelf life that's going to go well beyond the next few years. So we have to, as we incorporate these security solutions, we have to be very careful that we accommodate the legacy gear as we build this over the next literally 20 to 30 years.
Well, we certainly wish you the best as you try to handle this security issue from both sides.